Okay, we are live now. Thank you for everyone for joining us. Jennifer, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. I am happy to see everyone here on this amendments of agreements meeting. What we're going to be discussing today is primarily just the fine tuning of the agreements that we put out to all of the area leaders, and review some of review all the comments that we got and discuss some points to fine tune this agreements so that maybe we can move forward in this process. So I know that there are some very specific
We just lost Jennifer, so if we just want to hang on 1 second. She's coming right back on. There you are. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I have here. That had been brought up.
Okay, hang on 1 second.
Fine tuning. I actually haven't seen a lot of what the general responses had been. And do we have access to that now? Someone said that they were going to bring it up.
Yeah, so I have the survey. I think I could share it with everybody. Let's see. Share comes up. And now?
We're seeing your screen. Can you share the document?
I've got the responses to the survey.
Yeah. Is it a Google Doc?
It's a Google form, like Excel.
Sure. Could you use the share button and say anybody with the link can view it or can comment?
I was trying to share the screen.
Yeah.
But I can
it's hard to read the screen.
I can read them through. So, I mean, overall, the comments were positive. There were, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people that accepted it without any kind of comment. They were good with what was in there. As far as there were a couple, like just like positive comments, like it was thorough, happy, you know, good job, things like that. So as far as the action points that we have from it, someone say meet at least twice a year. Will there be a report sent to Illinois leaders after each meeting to state was discussed and any decisions that were made? I think that would help in an effort to make accountability run in both directions. So that was one of the things I had put in the meeting agenda to discuss that point. So adding like a summary / minutes of ADC meetings to the actual agreement.
Kat, it would be really helpful to me if you could share the document so that I could read it. It's much easier for me to process it that way than just hearing it. There should be a setting that says anyone with the link can view, and then nobody can alter the form, but we'll be able to read it.
There you go.
Thank you.
So everyone can see now, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm just opening it up right now. Also, Kelly says she'll join when she can. She's trying to put her son down for a nap. Kat, do you want to fill in Kelly really quick with what we're doing so that she knows what the responses link is? Or Jennifer, it doesn't matter.
It's worth noting that somebody joining the meeting now won't be able to see the links that we've already posted.
Okay, I'll send it again. So basically, we had sent out the survey and we had asked for all current leaders in Illinois to review the draft of the agreement and then provide any feedback as far as things that needed to be added or things that needed to be changed. The docs that I pasted as a result of that feedback, the comments that we had received. Like I said, overall, some were positive, some were like neutrally accepting, and then there were just a few things that seemed that needed to be discussed. And I have already outlined those in the area agreement notes. So we can go ahead and talk through. My suggestion in the interest of time would be to talk through the critical.
Right, I'm gonna apologize to you guys right now. I'm sticking on it as much as I can. I keep having freezing and jumping, and I'm trying to go look at things, but my iPad is not wanting to keep up as much. So we'll keep moving forward, but I apologize if I disappear or keep disappearing.
Okay,
I think,
Jennifer.
Jennifer, we can talk through what's going on, and that way, if your iPad just at least lets you stay connected, you know, we can look at the results of the survey later, but we can just talk through what needs to get talked through today. That way you don't have to keep flipping back and forth.
I think that's a good idea too. Susan, are you still there? You see, okay, you're very still. Just making sure you're not frozen also.
Okay, I think maybe I have a good chance if I leave my camera off and just talk and not go anywhere.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so I mean, in general, it seemed that pretty much the feedback was positive. It's the two big questions are the accountability of the ACD, and then I think there was some terminology in inclusiveness that needed to be addressed. And correct me if I'm wrong, those seem to be the two big things, are the accountability of ACD and how do they report to leaders and how do they make decisions, and then this inclusive language. Am I got right?
And Mary had brought up the point of how to select the ADC.
Okay. So then what do we want to tackle first? Do we want to tackle inclusiveness or do we want to tackle the ACD? Anyone have all right. Mary, are you there? I say let's tackle inclusiveness, because that just seems like to be a cheerier topic for right now. If people don't mind. Mary, if you please describe where what your vision and what you see the language being, and how do you think that it would help, and where you see the changes being made. Let me mute myself.
Hang on one second, because Mary is having a hard time with her connection on her side, I think. I'm talking to her in the chat. Hang on one second.
No worries.
Okay, she says she can hear me. So Mary, why don't you go ahead and are you muted right now?
I'm not anymore.
Okay, can everyone hear Mary? Yeah, Mary, why don't you go ahead? Well, so what Jennifer asked is, what language changes do you envision, and basically, what did you envision for the parts that you needed addressed?
Well, I shared in the Illinois Leaders Facebook group, unfortunately, just late last night, so not as early as I'd hoped to do so, but I shared a couple of examples of agreements from two other areas, the LHA League of Oregon and also Old Dominion, which is a non-geographic area, but excuse me. Personally, I think that Old Dominion has a pretty standard vote, sort of procedure that made a lot of sense to me. It reminds me a lot of other organizations that I've been a part of. The LHA League of Oregon's is consensus-based, so the agreement's kind of confusing to read. I don't know that would be a good fit for our area. I think it's an interesting idea, but I'm not married to either of those ideas necessarily. I think there are multiple ways to approach some sort of group selection. But the simplest one is a more traditional nominate people, and then if you can't reach consensus, vote. So, which is sort of what Old Dominion's agreement has.
Sorry, Mary. Sorry to interrupt. Okay, so I might be confused. So you're talking about the selection of the ACD. This is different than, I thought there was questions on language of just social inclusiveness, or is this tied to that?
No,
This is not
I think
tied
there
to
was
that.
some confusion.
Yeah.
There was a point, Jennifer, that said, I would change this to read, good parenting through nursing to be trans inclusive.
Okay. I think that's what I was referring to.
Okay. So it was not Mary's comment, and I apologize if I led it that way.
Okay,
But
sorry.
someone's comment was, I am personally committed to good mothering through breastfeeding as presented in the Womanly Art of Breastfeeding and other La Leche League international publications. I would change this to read, good parenting through nursing to be trans inclusive.
Okay, so if Mary, if you don't mind, because this is what I was suggesting tackling first. Okay, this is part I remember and we'll get back to the decisions and decision-making body, the ACD. That what they were talking about, the good mothering, that is the statement of commitment. And if I'm not mistaken, that's pulled directly from.
Yes, we
Relatively
cannot change the
International. We can't
statement of
change that.
commitments.
So,
Okay,
okay,
so
so
that's the answer. We
that's the
cannot
answer.
change
We
this.
cannot change that because that's international.
Correct.
Excellent. So, good. Easy thing done first. Now, Mary, let's go on to the ACDs, the selection process. Now, just so it's clear, you're talking about when there's a vacancy on the ADC and how to fill that. Am I correct, Mary?
Yes, instead of being a self-selecting body where the ADC basically votes on itself, I would like to see something that involves all of the area leaders.
Okay, so because as we presently have it, it's that there's a vacancy, there's a search letter sent. If there are either nominations or people putting in their hats, that the team the existing ACD team comes together and vets the person and makes a decision between people if there is more than one. And then I think we had put a little addendum about if we have, was it less than 5 people on the ADC team, that we fill those with volunteers from the area. And since I can't go to look at it, if someone has our latest work, is that what it said, that if there's vacancies of less than 5, that if it's filled with volunteers to be on the decision-making team?
Jennifer, I think people are double checking this. Is that what folks are looking at right now? Nobody wants to guess.
I put it in the chat, the text in the chat, Jennifer, so that you can see it. But yes, it does say at least 5 are not filled.
So, Mary, I don't think the concern was necessarily on backfilling any open positions. You're talking about filling positions altogether, right? So not that we have vacancies.
I mean,
go ahead.
the reality is that as long as we're at a position where there is 1 or 0 people volunteering, the method doesn't necessarily matter a whole lot, right? But in the case where we had 2 people who wanted to take on a particular job, how would that decision be made? And I think that there are some benefits to that decision being somehow a full area decision as opposed to just the team's decision. I think that it involves people more in the process, and it doesn't seem like this separate team that makes all the decisions. And I think that, who knows? I mean, this is obviously speculation, but I would hope that that would actually increase engagement in both the process, and then when you're engaged in the process, you're more likely to be willing to take on a role as well. Obviously, I don't have, proof of that, but I have seen that happen in other organizations.
So where is the text, please, that explains how department positions are filled on the onset, not just in the cases of key decisions?
I pasted into our chat, our Hangouts chat, links to the 2 that Mary shared, Old Dominion and Oregon.
And what does our current language say?
Let's see, this is...
I just want to make sure we're in the right section if we're going to start talking about editing it.
Yep, this is the bottom of page 3, to fill ADC team vacancies. Page 3 in the document named Illinois Agreements Draft. So ours is brief, and Oregon's is, I forget, I looked at both of them, but now I can't remember which is which, but was much more, more detailed. So in the Oregon document on page 4, there's a section on nomination process, but it's actually like lots of these things. Area positions, 5B, and nominating process.
Okay, so I need to ask the question because the current wording in our agreement says all efforts to fill ADC team vacancies will begin with a search letter sent to all leaders in Illinois, email and/or social media, or post by request, which will include a brief job description with department relevant information and a brief description of how ADC team members work together. An ADC team member who is retiring may also approach leaders with personal invitations, which means that they can submit to that search letter, respond to that search letter. And dialogue will follow. Shoot, I think I just lost it. Hang on. Dialogue will follow. Dialogue will be conducted mainly through email. Follow between any candidates expressing interest from the search letter or from personal invitations and the ADC team. The dialogue will be conducted mainly through email and will involve informing candidates of expectations for the ACD team work and answering any questions candidates may have about the ADC team, Having filled my first ACD team position as ACL, I answered a search letter that went out. I did the ACL position because I was the only person when that call went out who filled that position. And then there was no one else that wanted to be the CLA either. And I went through the interview process for both of those positions. The interview process is answering these questions. So this is what we currently have. And I'm wondering how this is not communicating with the area and how it can be different.
Is it possibly fair to say the concern that I don't know, yeah, that there is a volunteer, a lack of volunteers, but maybe that the question that's really the concern is who's choosing the people. There's been a culture of distrust that has been created with the people who are on the ADC, not making any judgments on that. We're just saying that there's been a distrust of that there's only been this less than a handful of people making these decisions, and that there's something being wanted to be put in paperwork to kind of spread the decision-making responsibility out. Mary, is it possibly fair to say that?
I'll say that for me, the thing that sort of sparked me bringing this issue back up, because it was talked about at the very first agreements meeting, and sort of put off to the same, well, this is how we've done it, and okay, at some point you let things go, but is the fact that I think we're seeing this self-selection process be an issue other places. I mean, the Literature League International Board is self-selecting, and that is a little bit worrisome at some point. And you know, just sort of wondering how this all works as a whole organization. And we're not going to change how the board functions, but we do have the ability to affect change in our local area. And that is what got me back to pushing for this, I guess, more than anything that's happening locally. I think, generally speaking, organizations that I've been a part of where the whole membership voted on things had a different feel than organizations I've been a part of where the decision makers sort of were their own circle. And having it set up formally such that everyone has a say does change the feel of that. Even if in practice, if there's only, like I said, if there's only one person volunteering, you don't have to vote on anything. It's pretty obvious. Regardless of the system that's written in our agreement, if there's only one person, as long as they're an appropriate person, they're going to be the one. So it doesn't necessarily change a lot in practice, depending on the circumstance, but it has the potential to change things in certain circumstances. And it does change. I think it also changes the feel a little bit, knowing that things are written such that, you know, all of the leaders in the area do have input on who the decision makers are in the area. Does that answer the question? Sorry, I feel like I'm kind of
I just wanted to make sure that we kind of
I guess
kind of really
for me it doesn't answer the question, because I'm actually asking you to put this into words if you want it added into the documents. So here we have something that has been in place and has been used and has been the only
I did not realize that the question was what specifically would I edit.
I guess that's what I'm looking for, because that's what we're doing here. This is what's been working. If you want something to actually be changed and to be worked into the document, that's what we're doing here. Am I wrong?
No, that's our goal. And
Right.
Mary has offered two alternatives. One of them uses a nominating committee, and the other uses a vote by the area leaders. Their ADCs are elected. So there are two different systems being proposed.
Could it be said that
maybe?
Hang on one second. Mary's having trouble hearing again.
Okay.
Susan, could you type in what you just said about the two things into the chat?
We'll see if you guys can at least hear me. So as far as specific verbiage, personally, I like the verbiage that's in the Old Dominion agreement. I think it's pretty straightforward. People nominate. If there are multiple people nominated, then you vote. And there's verbiage that could probably be cut and pasted. Because their agreement is structured a little bit differently, it's not going to be like a super simple cut and paste, but there's verbiage there. If I were proposing something, that's what I would propose. But the Oregon agreement is another example with a different feel in that it's a consensus agreement. So,
okay. So here's the thing, Mary. I need you to propose one specific thing more concretely. Can I request that?
Sure. What's the one
Thanks.
specific thing
that you want into the agreement? Either nominating or as and the area elects it. Like it seems muddled to me.
So are we Mary, are you fine with the area sending out a search letter and gathering a list of candidates or as often happens, or one candidate? And then after So after the search letter is sent out, the area team can make this list. How would you like to, you would like Illinois leaders to vote on the list of candidates?
That would be my proposal,
Correct?
yes. I think there are alternatives. That's why, but the reason it sounds muddled is because I don't want to speak like and say this is the way it should be. But if I were proposing one thing, it would basically be that we copy the Old Dominions agreement. But
All right,
I think there are alternatives if people aren't comfortable with that or want some. I'm
In LAD, we lovingly lift, which is all of the 3 L's of the LHA League. We lovingly lift things from places. We lovingly lifted a lot of stuff from several different agreements. So if you're suggesting that we lovingly lift from Old Dominion's agreements, then I think that is something that we could discuss.
I would say between the two, between the two, I mean, since we have a problem getting volunteers, the idea of the ADCT being selected by forming a committee and that committee selecting seems like, for us, as we are in Illinois right now, an extra process that we may not have the power to, the human capital to do. Whereas it sounds like just an election by the area leaders, you know, could that be as simple as put up what we're doing now kind of things, like a doodle poll for all of you who are far more experienced with this? We could put up, you know, here we have, you know, we've vetted these 2 people. It's between she, and if you have questions for 2 weeks, please post them up, and here you can vote for them on such and such day. Does that seem to be with something that's obtainable for the power that we have to do, given, you know, how it seems to be a small handful is usually kind of putting these things together?
I mean, I understand that process. I think the problem is the reality of that. We have less, like about a 10% response rate to this draft of an agreement. But how many leaders should be able, like, should we have a minimum amount of people voting to consider something final?
I think low response rate is fine. If people don't want to participate, then they're not sharing their opinion, then they don't have a voice in the decision. If they want to participate in the decision, then they can. I don't think that's a road, you know, a blocker.
It's not happy, it's not pleasant. But I think, as Susan said, that may be just the reality of what it is. If we do want to put this out to have more involvement, or at least give people the opportunity for more involvement, right now we accept about the circumstance that we are only going to have a 10% rate. And, you know, if they were given 2 weeks to vote, then they were given 2 weeks to vote, and that was their opportunity to stand up and, you know, let their opinion be known, or any objections or concerns. But, you know, I personally don't know how to force anyone to be any more active than they want to be.
Well, and
so
I was just gonna say, like, I don't know how, like, I know you can't force people to vote, and I know that low engagement rate is, maybe that's a reflection of the situation that we're in as a local area. Maybe the low engagement rate is just a reality of the fact that we're all volunteers, and, you know, not everyone takes things as intensely as some other people do in terms of to the area. So you know, I'm definitely supportive. Like there was some area team or Illinois or US. I think there was some US survey that said, here's 3 people. They all wrote like a short little blurb describing their credentials and you voted on it. Like fair and good. I just would want to like get I would just back, I guess, in terms of things like that. Does that make sense?
I'm sorry, you got cut off from it. You wanted to get what back from them at least?
I guess I'm stuck on the amount of low feedback that we would get on some kind of voting process. I'm still supportive of it, definitely. I just don't know if a barrier to that, like what's the point of having that process if there's very limited, if any. Okay.
I think that we want to be careful about creating a system based on how things are right now. If it's workable for how things are right now, great, but we shouldn't assume that it's always going to be this way because it has been different in the past and it could be different in the future. And I think that a low response rate may in fact be our reality. And I think that it's really, you're really on point to say that it's the nature of a volunteer organization. People are participating at different levels. Any participation at all is welcome and can help to give us some direction. And probably most of the time it's not even going to apply because we're only going to have one person coming to do the job if we're lucky. Voting between 2 is going to be an occasional situation.
Okay, so how about something like this? I'm just throwing a sentence out there. Sorry, Jennifer.
Oh, I was going to say something very similar to the fact that, yes, it is very disappointing to watch your hard work go out and get very little response back. But what this, you know, I think we discussed at one of the very first meetings is that these agreements are, it's not set in stone for the next 20 years of the Lake League of Illinois, that this is something we can kind of come back to and work as the area changes and grows. And what this addition with an election by area leaders could just plant seeds that could, in maybe 7 years, show more activity or more involvement from on the real local leader level. And you know, in a few years down the road, if we realize, oh my gosh, this is a huge disaster for some reason, then we can always come back and have a nice little Continental Congress again and change it to what it needs to be and where we think we could go. So I don't think it's going to cause anything to explode or implode, but give it a go. If it's, you know, people don't, that's easy for me to say, I'm not making the doodle polls, but you know, if the people who know better can make those and they don't mind and they're willing to give this a go for a while, let's try it a lot, especially if it creates more trust and a feeling of more transparency.
No, I agree. And like I said, I feel like it's a vicious circle. Like people aren't engaged because there's the leader thing, but outside of that, people aren't engaged because they feel like they can't be part of the team, but they can't be for, you know, I'm definitely supportive of it. I was just trying to figure out what sentence we can put in place. And if we all agree that there's flaws in the process of the response rate, and if we're okay with that, does that make the process any much less valid?
Well, if we just start, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but I think I'm the only one who's stuck on the response rate, and that's okay.
What are you doing? Yeah, I think you're right, Stephanie. Any choice has a cost. Every choice has a cost. I like the idea of more participation, offering opportunities for participation. It is a way of trying to engage people. Whether it's an effective one or not remains to be seen, but offering opportunities to participate feels like a good direction from where we are right now.
So could we start a sentence again? In the event that two suitable candidates have been found by the ADC team, a vote will go forward to all the leaders.
Let me, okay, so the sentence in our draft right now is the ADC team will then appoint the leader that is best qualified for the position based on these dialogues. And we could replace that sentence to say, let's look at the language. All it says in the other one is elected.
I think we have
elected by area leaders.
I think we have to look a little bit further up in that paragraph, because if there's an implication that the area team is deciding who is acceptable.
Right. Yes, okay.
I think that having dialogue about the positions makes sense, because how else, that's the best way you're going to figure out whether it's a good fit, what you were nominated for is a good fit. We just need to be careful that doesn't, I'm looking at it right now, but.
Yeah, good point. So it would be something like area leaders will elect the ADC, choosing between all leaders who offer
Interested leaders?
I think that you need to say more than interested. I would maybe suggest something like adding that leaders are committed to being part of that position. Like, it can't just be a general offhanded, like, hi, here's my name, I'm interested in that. Like, are you going to do it?
So let's look at the Old Dominion again. What does it say?
Well, so one thing that I want to point out about both of the other agreements that I showed is that those areas have regular meetings, and that's where a bulk of these things happen, which is, if that's not what we're proposing, then obviously that changes some of the verbiage. It's easy to say we're electing at the area meeting when you have an area meeting and people are there and you just do an election there, right? I mean, Old Dominion specifically says if you can't reach consensus, then we vote, which allows the flexibility to say, like, hey, we had 2 people nominated for this role, but hey, I think, person B, you would be good at this role, and that one's empty right now. And then there doesn't need to be a vote because you just reached an agreement, right? But we don't, if we're not committing to regular area meetings, then that process is going to have to look a little bit different, and it's going to have to happen offline. So
the agreement says the ADCs will have face-to-face meetings at least twice a year, and more often if mutually agreed upon.
Yeah, but that's just the area team, right? That's not, like, Old Dominion says they have an entire area meeting, and that's where this conversation happens. And in fact, just because you're the CLA doesn't even mean you're on their coordinating council, which is the, like, leadership team. So there's some other, like, quirks there, which are a whole nother bag of worms, I guess, which we don't have to open. But that's part of why it's hard to just, directly cut and paste, because there's a whole different feel to.
So what you're proposing is that in addition to the ADC team, that there should be an area-wide meeting separate from any conference or event on a yearly basis.
I'm not saying that that's a good fit for our area. I'm just saying, I think that, I don't know. I think that could help in a lot of ways, but I also realize that there's some challenges there too. I'm bringing that
Can
up
I
to explain why Old Dominion's agreement it's not just a copy and paste into ours, because there are some other fundamental differences in how they work. So
Right.
there's not like one sentence that just would fix this all.
Agreed.
It's okay. Does anyone mind if I just give a little bit of history for, I guess, area history? Part of the things that happened at area conferences is that we would have these type of big leader meetings, and leaders would actually see each other and talk about area stuff. And the area team consisted of 10 people. I mean, this is years back. We're talking 20 years. Even 30 years. So, and the area conference would switch back and forth biannually. It would be in the South one time, and then in the nearer the city and suburbs, and then it would switch back and forth. And that would, I mean, it would consist of 100 to 200 moms and volunteers and leaders. It wasn't just leaders; it was mothers and groups, and everyone would go, and there would be breastfeeding education. There would also be dad classes. Marianne Zay's husband did that class for a long time. It was a big conference, and it was fun. I had the opportunity to go to one that was much more like that in 2008, and it was in Champaign. It was fantastic. I would love to see something like that be reborn. It needs bodies, that plain and simple. And I don't see or feel that that is what current leaders or new mothers are putting forth as far as energy goes right now. There needs to be some kind of re-energization, that's not the right word, in order to get to that. But asking all the leaders to have that kind of physical commitment might not be the right thing to put into the wording, and might not be the focus that we need right now. I think that it could something that we do, but not in our agreement.
I think that there's an easy answer to that, just as there was an easy answer to our agreements meetings, which is that the election does not have to happen in person. It can happen electronically. An electronic election is not a cumbersome, it's not a burdensome thing.
And if I could, I'm sorry, I was going to say, and I think what I heard Mary saying was that she was pointing out that the cut and paste process for the examples that she was given she recognized that they weren't a perfect fit, because it seems like Old Dominion can do things that we cannot do right now, or we can't do as things are right now. So she was acknowledging that the cut and paste was not a perfect fit. So the idea that there are these in-person meetings, although they would be beautiful, is just not something that's going to happen. Am I correct in what I was hearing from you, Mary, that you were recognizing that, you know, you liked the sort of the frame and the example of Old Dominion, but you acknowledge that it's not a take them and now we have to do what they've done?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Just that there's a reason why I can't just say, well, if we just move this sentence here, then we've taken the part I liked from theirs and added it to ours and we're done, because it's not quite that simple.
All right.
But that's
what
all.
If, in trying to find a middle place in that, you know, we want to have more leader involvement, but we, you know, and we want to have, you know, hopefully we develop into a place where we have two individuals who are interested in a position. In the middle ways of, like, say we only have one person who's interested. What if we sort of do a, you know, wedding congregation, if anyone here has any objections to why this person, you know, speak now in the next 2 weeks before the poll starts, or forever hold your peace kind of thing. Would that be a middle road possible?
Yeah, that's another interesting component, I guess. You're sort of offering veto power, which seems different than choosing between multiple options.
So that's an interesting point, because actually the way the Old Dominion one specifically is written is there's this coordinating council, which isn't necessarily the people holding, you know, ACL or whatever roles, but oftentimes is going to be those people. Those people are nominated. There's no specific number. Those people are nominated and then either voted on, yes or no. So it's kind of totally different and maybe just confusing, but I think that that same idea is why there are places that require like a nomination to be seconded or thirded, right? I mean, you know, that it's not just one person. That gives you a little bit of perspective, and that there are other people who support that person's candidacy, if that's a way to put that, I guess.
Okay, that's a helpful distinction. You're asking people to vote yes or no on everybody who puts themselves forward after this dialogue process, rather than just having an election if more than one person wants the job. Is that right?
That's what Old Dominion does. I'm not sure that that's right for us, but that is what they do, as I understand reading their agreement. I don't know if everyone has the chat window open, but I did put some verbiage there because that was simpler than trying to type in or say exact words.
Yeah, that's
I mean, just from the perspective of trying to keep it simple, the simplest thing obviously is just to edit the paragraph that we have to include voting on people.
Yeah,
and move on with life, right? I personally think that if we make any progress towards it being a more democratic process, that will help, and that we always have the opportunity to change it if we get to a point where we are having in-person meetings and something else makes sense. This isn't locked in set in stone forever. So
that's a good point too, that we can make changes to the way it's done. I don't know how specific we have to be in the words we use in the agreement, and how much flexibility we have. I'm going to paste in what I wrote in the document. I was trying to incorporate all the different things that people were saying, and you can tell me what you think about that. I'll highlight the sentence we're looking at.
Where is this chat box?
I'm not sure what it looks like on an iPad, Jennifer, but on my Google Hangouts window, it just appears as a sidebar on the right. There are icons on the left, and if you have the icons, you can click the top one, the blue message box, and that might make it appear.
And those icons only show up when I put my cursor over the video image. So you may need to like put your cursor over the video image and see if those come up, and then press the blue box.
Yeah, and
At
if you
least
don't,
I'm on my PC though, so
okay,
that may be not helpful.
I think that's right. And if you don't have the icons on the left, you might have the 3 dots up in the right corner. And if you click that, you might see the options for chat and screen share and others. Did that help?
So Susan, I think that verbiage is fine. I guess the only thing that was in that first sentence that I wrote was maybe making sure that we imply that discussion with the existing team members is just to make sure that people are truly interested in the positions, that it's not like a vetting process or something.
So maybe in the sentence that says a dialogue will follow between any candidates expressing interest from the search letter or from personal invitations and the ADC team, and I could put a comma and say, in order to confirm their interest
And fit or something. I mean,
Yeah,
or, well,
right.
but then that implies the
Yeah,
same thing. I
right,
don't know.
it's tricky.
Like, I think we all know that what it means, but I want to make sure that it's clear in words.
Interest and ability.
Interest and desire, because that puts it on them, on the person who's interested, as opposed to on, I guess, interest and desire are kind of the same thing, but
Yeah, I think so too. So what we're saying is we want somebody to be able to put themselves forward, even if the people on the ADC team think that they aren't a good candidate for the job. We still want people to be able to vote for them.
that's what I was getting at. I mean, I think that the idea of having a dialogue with the existing team is helpful because it may show that, hey, you know, you'd be a better fit for this other job or such. And especially when the reality is that it's not like we're going to have 5 people offering for every position, right? So that I think that dialogue is good. We just have to, I just want to make sure it's clear that it's only for information gathering.
Yeah.
For the candidate, not it's not the team having discussions and then deciding who they're going to put on the ballot.
So it could just say in order to confirm their interest, period, or it could say in order to confirm their interest and understanding.
Dedication?
Yeah, I was to say interest and commitment.
Commitment?
So then who's judging their commitment then?
Their commitment. Like, if you want to know what it takes to be accrediting leaders, we'll talk and I'll tell you all the things. If you still decide that that's for you,
if you're truly interested in having a non-biased party assist in this kind of thing, the person who vetted me for the ACL position was the regional area. You might need to help me with the acronym. The RALA, regional
administrator, maybe, of leader accreditation.
Right. So that's something that we could be utilizing.
Yes.
The area network for.
Yeah. What about to confirm interest and ensure the leader's understanding of the demands of the position?
In order to confirm their interest and understanding.
And ensure the leaders understand, or the, I don't know, applicants, whatever word we're using, understanding of the demands of the position. That's putting it on them, like making sure they still understand and are still interested, right?
Yeah, I think that understanding is better than commitment because commitment does sound like somebody's deciding that.
So by the way, the idea that area network people have some say in who our area team is apparently exists in some area networks, like they have veto power. So that's something to think about when we start talking about which area network. So, because not all area networks apparently function in that exact way. So that was something that came up, and I don't know if everyone saw the thread I posted in the LLH League Leaders Forum, but that was something that actually the person who shared the Old Dominion agreement with me specifically said that was why their agreements written the way it is, and that's why Mosaic Area Network exists, because they had a situation where they had someone who wanted to be CLA, and the area network said, and the area agreed the person was a good fit, and the area network said, nope, they can't do it. So I didn't even realize that was possible, but apparently it is in certain area networks. So
I'd be really surprised, not to burst anyone's bubble, if that wasn't true for all area networks in some capacity. It all trickles down. It's LLH International. It's LLH USA. It's the network. If International were to come and tell us, nope, that leader is not in good standing, we would have to agree. So I'd be surprised, no matter what our agreement or how our agreement is written. I'm just saying.
I mean, realistically, there's going to be some amount of that. That's true. But an area network that has that as part of their process for vetting all of the people versus one that doesn't is going to be much more likely to choose to use that power, if that makes sense.
Well, Mary, I think that's a good point. And if and when we get to that place, if we are deciding to go ahead and, you know, either form our own area or join another network, if that's good information to have when we have that conversation or we come to that point. But does anyone see how that would affect the wording that we need to do right now in choosing leaders?
No, I don't think it affects the verbiage today. It just popped into my mind as related, so I wanted to bring it up.
No, thank you. It's good information to have.
Do we have agreement about the text shown currently in our draft document?
Will someone
Jennifer, if you would like me to paste the whole thing, I can do that.
Well, I can't even find the chat on mine.
Oh, okay. How shall I share it then?
So, can you do me the really archaic favor of reading it?
Yeah, I think that would be nice because sometimes it's nice to just hear someone read it. So I agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll read it. To fill ADC team vacancies. All efforts to fill ADC team vacancies will begin with a search letter sent to all leaders in Illinois, email and/or social media, or post by request, which will include a brief job description with department relevant information and a brief description of how ADC team members work together. An ADC team member who is retiring may also approach leaders with personal invitations to consider the ADC position. A dialogue will follow between any candidates expressing interest from the search letter or from personal invitations and the ADC team in order to confirm their interest and understanding of the position. This dialogue will be conducted mainly through email and will involve informing candidates of expectations for ADC teamwork and answering any questions candidates may have about the ADC team and/or department work they will be doing. This dialogue will take place off the regular ADC email list to maintain the confidential nature of remarks made by all parties. Area leaders will elect the ADC electronically, choosing between all leaders who put themselves forward after this dialogue. Announcement of appointment will take place by email, social media, and/or at leader events as timing dictates.
Okay.
I like it.
And then you go
Good.
in.
It's good for me.
All
So the one other question that I have related to this is there are no term limits or regular period of time at which people.
The term limits are all currently in job descriptions, and each usually last 3 years. They're usually no different, to my understanding. It's 3 years with the option for 1 extra year. The only reason anyone has been in any term longer is because no one ever responded to any search letters.
So do we need some kind of contingency plan, like, or put in the agreement document? Term limits are generally 3 years, as outlined in the detailed document.
I think we should just say all ADC positions are such and such, so that it is not based upon some random job description which is lost somewhere somehow. I would agree with Mary and think that we should put it in the agreements, if that's what Mary is looking for.
Yeah, I think that.
Sorry to put words in her mouth.
No, I think that would simplify to put it in there. I don't know if they were different or where they even were. So then
Thank you for bringing it up.
And in the case that I think that person's term, maybe this doesn't need to be in there, but just thinking of what Mary's thinking through, like if that term is up and that person goes on for the next extra year or whatever, then what? Then we're back to the point of having an empty spot on our thing
Well,
We
what
send
if,
out the search letter and then have someone in the area network backfill for that as needed, right?
what if we say that the initial term is 3 years, and after that, if there are no other candidates, that person can be elected in 1-year terms. So that from then on out, there will be a search letter sent every year along with the process to at least, I don't know.
Trying to keep it going. You
mean,
can't
because
just let it linger.
Like, if there's
Forever.
literally no one else, I don't personally have an issue with someone continuing on in a job that they know and are willing to do. But if we make it such that after the 3 years, they're up for election or up for replacement every year, then that keeps it fresh in people's mind that, like, hey, we really need someone else to step up to this job. I don't know. Just a proposal.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that makes sense to me. The
Yeah, Stephanie,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it
what
makes
I
sense
was.
if you,
I mean, if they're not willing to do it, then they don't nominate themselves, and then that's the end of it, right? I mean, they don't have to continue on, but if they
Right.
were willing to, we would let them do so.
Yeah.
But instead, then they're after the initial term, the terms would be 1 year instead of 3.
Mhm. So
What I'm just saying is, along the lines that we've already put forward, is to put it out to the area. Stephanie's term for CLA is up, and she's going in April of Dutch and Dutch a year. She is reapplying for her extra year. And then we put out the job description, put out the search letter. If anyone is interested, the training would need to begin, however that is worded. And then if she were going to continue on as ACL or CLA, because that is, there's 2 positions that you have to have in order to continue as an area, according to international, and that is the AFC and the CLA. So it's really important. Please stop. So anyway, what I'm suggesting is that that person be reaffirmed by the area every year that she is interested in continuing.
Mhm.
But also,
Yes.
that
So there would be an
person-
election every year, and if she were the only person, then she would be allowed
yeah,
to
but
be
I'm also
reelected.
saying that that person shouldn't be forced into serving in the area for 10 plus years.
Oh, certainly. They would
And-
still
and-
have to agree to be put on the list to be elected. I mean, even if they're the only nominee, they have to agree to that nomination. They can't, they're putting their name forward. So if they don't put their name forward, we can't force them to maintain the job.
So is there would those annual elections continue beyond 1 additional year, or is there only 1 additional year?
My proposal was that I would be okay with them continuing as long as, I mean, obviously the same conditions met, the person is willing to do the job and they're putting their name forward.
Mm-hmm. But it should still be considered an open search.
Yes.
After
I think
that,
after the 3-year term,
After
it's
the
an open
3
search
years.
every year.
yes. Okay. Okay. So let me think how to word that then. All terms are for 3 years, and thereafter the ADC can
How about initial terms are 3 years? Any subsequent term for the same person is only 1 year or something. That's not very formal, but.
Yeah, but I want to say thereafter new searches will be held annually. Does that make sense? And the current ADC may reapply
For a 1 year term.
for a
Because
1 year term.
if someone new is elected, then they have a 3 year
Yes,
term. If
right.
it's the same person, then it's only a 1 year term.
Yes. So maybe I don't need to say will be held annually. Thereafter, a new search will be held, and the current ADC may reapply for a one-year term, or may reapply for one-year terms in order to indicate that it's okay to keep applying. Does that make sense? All terms are for 3 years.
How about all initial terms are 3 years?
Okay, all initial, that makes sense because the new person, it distinguishes for the new person.
Yeah, all initial terms are 3 years, and thereafter a new search will be held, and the current maybe ADC member, because it's not really the whole ADC, right?
Area department coordinator.
Oh, okay. I guess that does make sense.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think a one-year term still makes sense, but then we need to clarify.
May reapply for a one-year term with new election held annually.
Maybe may reapply for a one-year term and then with no overall term limit or something.
For a one-year term.
I know we're working on terminology. I just want to put a feeler out there. It's 1:45. How is everybody right now on time?
I'm okay. I want to get this done.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm fine till 2:15. I have a doctor's appointment at 2:45, so.
Okay.
Maybe this is clear enough. The current ADC may reapply for a one-year term. At the end of that, you just have to have a search again. So that it doesn't need to be stated that you're having a search again.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay.
I think if we wanted there to be an overall limit, we would have to put it in there. And if it's not there, we can assume that there isn't one.
Right. That's what I think that's how it reads. Okay. Do we have it?
Could we? Could we possibly?
There was one more thing to add based on the survey feedback,
Yes.
and that was about adding minutes to the ADC meetings.
Okay.
And I think that can be solved easily in a sentence.
So somewhere up here in this list of the area's responsibilities.
Yeah.
I thought it said they were meeting once or twice a year.
So where is that? Let's find that one.
And then just say
But
the ADC team will publish minutes of their meetings.
Yeah, where's the thing about meeting twice a year? Oh, ADCs, it's in the very first bullet point of the area has responsibilities to leaders and will. Buried in there, it says that ADCs will have face-to-face meetings at least twice a year and more often if mutually agreed upon. Decisions will be reached by consensus. Area leaders will be contacted for input for matters that significantly impact area operations. And right here, I can add minutes of ADC meetings will be shared with area leaders. Is that good enough?
Should we put the Facebook and Yahoo group, or are people going to start, just so to clarify that we're not mailing out, that's the one thing, we're not mailing out minute meetings.
I can put in our standard
blah, blah, blah.
email, social
Postal
media, post by request.
Or Pony Express if paid for, yeah. Carrier pigeon. Okay. Is that everything on our list that needed to be done? Oh my God, are you kidding me?
I don't know, is it?
I think that was, Kat, you said that was the last one, just that little.
That was the last critical point to add. So I still did have some few things to discuss in terms of what our next steps are.
That's what I
Okay.
was going to bring up next. So we have
Great.
this, and then our next step on that list was, well, because there's a, what is it, the Holly brought up the, you know, just is the deal that we're not going, we cannot go to a vote at this point, or we can, but we still have to hear back from the area network.
Yeah, the process with the agreements council comes first.
Okay.
That's the next thing that happens, is that we submit this to the agreements council with our timeline, and have the dialogue with them about whatever edits we need in order to comply with the requirements.
And so that's just an email that's sent to Holly, correct?
We send it to Holly. Holly shares it with the team.
Okay, so it would, and if I'm not mistaken, is that something we wanted to come through my email? Is that correct?
Sure, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think anyone who's been part of this team,
Okay.
whoever if someone wants to spearhead those communications, I think that's fine. Again, I just say it probably makes more sense that it's not Stephanie or I.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
We don't.
if I, you know, if I have an agreements document that I can put in an email, and the timeline I think was on a docs. If I can basically have those two documents sent to me, and I can just put them in the email and write a little blurb to Holly, I have no problem emailing that to Holly and then getting her responses, which hopefully they're going to say it's the most glorious thing we've ever seen. You people are amazing, and just vote on it, please, because we're tired of dealing with you, Illinois, because you're ridiculous. But
That's probably what's going to happen. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I thought last night too.
Yeah. Jennifer, I wonder if maybe we make a copy of the Google Docs that we're using and share those links. I didn't see anything specific about a particular form, and I think that's a really good way to share documents. I think that the timeline that is in our notes needs a little updating before we send it.
Okay.
And I can look at that.
So in terms of
the
sending those links to Holly, that's what you want to send, not just send the whole document, but you want to send the link to Holly? Or
I want to make a fresh copy of it, like not
Okay.
send the drafts that we've been working in,
okay.
which has our comments and all that stuff, but make a fresh copy and send a link.
I would send PDFs. I wouldn't send links to our documents. As far as when I'm working with LAD stuff and I always send PDFs of any documents that I don't want anyone to change. So they'll make edits, and if Holly says that she wants a writable document, I would have her let you know. Does that make sense?
Go ahead, Sharon.
I know when I just went to look at the agreement on the Google Doc link, like I don't have edit capability. So I think obviously there's ways to give people a Google Doc without giving them edit capability. So you just have to be careful about which particular link you send to people. Potentially you could create a separate Google Doc so that they could edit there and share comments, but it would be separate and we would maintain our original as well.
We could certainly make a separate copy, but sending a PDF of it is just as easy.
I think we lost Susan.
Yeah, I suppose, it just depends on like how they're going to actually provide us the feedback back. Like, are they going to print it out, handwrite notes in the margin things and send that back as an email response? Or are they going to be looking at it on a computer and wanting to try to input, in
I have
the
no idea.
actual online margin. I don't know either. I'm just saying, like, I mean, honestly, either way, it doesn't really matter as long as what we send can't be edited by them.
Exactly.
I think that's what you would want to avoid.
Yep.
And a PDF is virtually accessible by anyone on any platform. It opens up in the same format. It doesn't look different. It doesn't print out in 600 different pages. You know, it's a way to standardize and lock down a document.
Exactly.
But either way. So I guess while we're, oh, there's Susan's back.
Yes, sorry, I locked up. So I missed what was happening, but whatever form works for them, we can provide all kinds of different options.
I mean, I could email Holly and ask her. That also could be another can of worms. But you know, if you guys want, I can email and say, hey, we are ready to send you the draft of agreements and our timeline. What form would you like them in? If people want me to even open that. Okay.
Honestly, I think at this point, like, if we wait for her to respond, let's just send them something. Like, we're ready to go. Let's, sorry, but enough. If they can't read it in the Google Doc version online, she can write back and say, I can't understand this, at which case we can send her a PDF.
Any other?
Which is kind of why I always suggest just going with the PDF to start, because everyone has something they can usually view that with. It's a printable document file. That's what that means. Portable, but yeah.
Yeah, I think just send them something. You know, we've got our stuff ready to go. If we start asking questions, it'll be time before we get a response. And to what end?
Sure. Sure. Okay, so a little bit of cleanup needed. I'm happy to do the timeline finishing. And probably we want to proofread of our agreements draft.
So let's see. Let me find today's date. Today is the 9th. How much time would you like for cleaning, Susan? I mean, the rest of our timeline that we had kind of fleshed out last time is sort of to the side now, since this is got to get this to the agreements council. So, I mean, how much?
I can finish it this week.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this week, do you want Sunday night?
Yep.
Or would you like an extra? Okay. So sometime roughly on the 13th, we'll have something that can be sent to Holly, and I can email that to her on Sunday, and then it's the waiting game to hear back from the area council. That's my understanding is correct?
Right. I'm curious about how they prefer to do that, whether they'll just communicate with one person and you'll bring it back to this group, to the whole leaders list. Yeah, I'm curious about that.
And I can add that in my email to her of saying, you know, here I am, you know, representing the committee that put this together. Please, you know, here's our draft of our agreements. Here's our timeline. Please let us know what the process here is from here on out, how you will be communicating with us. So
yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. Any other matters, points, questions, things that have gone through cracks?
We're going to share the
cracks,
updated agreement with all of the leaders now, right, too? I know that not as a formal part of the process, but...
Right.
So
So we can post a reminder that we had this meeting, a link to if they'd like, and a status of where the agreement stands.
Kind of similar to
People can read through the notes because we've published them all along.
Yep.
Or listen to the conversation, and they can read through the document as we've kept it open.
So basically the same step we've been doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anything else at this point?
The only other thing I wanted to discuss was and I suppose maybe it requires another call or something afterwards, but how and when we get this out to leaders after the governing body approves our agreement, then what?
I think that's where we can kind of jump to the end of our plan, which was then to do that an actual mail posting to everybody.
Okay.
Doesn't that coincide with dues? Weren't we going to send it out with dues because people need to sign on to it if they're going to re-up with us?
People do need to opt in. Once our agreements are approved, people will need to opt in. And I think we should certainly offer electronic. Not everybody's going to want to bother with paper, but we can certainly.
That was going to be my suggestion, is just kind of making a first pass with, I don't know, I kind of would prefer to keep this separate from the dues collection process because I think it's hard enough sometimes. But I was suggesting maybe we make a first pass at like an electronic opting in and saying like, do you want to join in? Because like, I know I would. You don't need to spend 50, 70 cents to mail me the actual letter. Like, even if we can head off any expense, I think it's wise, to be prudent with our funds that way.
Agreed.
So maybe we take a first pass at an electronic opt-in. Obviously, anyone who doesn't respond, if we get no responses at all, then we'll send out paper. No, it's really serious.
How much time will we give them to opt in before we send them paper? I am all for the saving money. I'm all for saving just the time to do it. I thought in one of our last conversations, it was given sort of the weight of the whole thing and wanting to really make sure that everyone was kind of reached in every way, that this was the one thing we were going to do a mailing for. And of course, we wouldn't send one to, we don't send one to ourselves, but my impression that last time was like, given the weight of what this is, and we want to make sure people have every resource, and we would send it to electronically, and we would put it up on Facebook, and we would do the Yahoo group, but this was the one time we were also just going to just mail it out.
Buck up and mail it. Yeah, I was just throwing it out there. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm so close to the process, but I was just throwing it out there as an idea. But I understand, like we said before, to send it via mail, it adds a lot of weight to the process.
I think both is a good option, personally, because I prefer to do things electronically. But we do need to send it to everybody the first time so that they have the hard copy of it. The same way I think that we always send honestly, I send a statement of commitment electronically, but I always tell newly accredited leaders that they should save a hard copy for their own files. Whether or not they actually print it out themselves, that is up to them.
So Kat, I know we wanted to bring it up and we wanted to talk about it. Do we have to nail this down right now? Or can
Probably
we wait?
not.
Okay, can we wait to see what happens in the response from the area council and getting this out? Okay.
Yeah. I was just putting it out there as an idea. I see both.
Absolutely.
And I know that this time has gone long, and I think everyone's probably done, so that's totally fine.
Yeah, my 4-year-old's beating up a grandmother right now. I gotta go save grandma.
All right.
So if anything else that we need to discuss right now, Susan says she's going to do some cleanup of the files. I will start a letter to Holly to get that out hopefully by the end of Sunday or on Monday, and then we will wait to see what the powers that be say about the work that's been done. Everyone okay with that right now?
Would anyone else like to offer to take a pass at proofreading? It's good to have more than one set of eyes on it.
I'm willing to look stuff over. If you want to send to me.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I didn't see who that was, though.
It was me, Mary.
Okay, thank you. Yes, will do.
And this is Sharon, and I just wanted to briefly mention that I had volunteered previously and will still volunteer to do a hard copy mailing to the area with my stamps and envelopes and paper.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the reminder on that.
All right, so Susan and Mary will proof. We have Sharon who's volunteered materials. If there is nothing else, I think we can call this meeting to a close. Yes, yes?
Thank you, Jennifer.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Glory.
Thanks,
All right,
bye.
guys. Well,